Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, the usual disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to see all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take a look at the article written by Neuroclastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called Behavior Modification Program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Neuroclastic refused, so you folks know the drill. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. Also included is Neuroclastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever does actually see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to go ahead and utilize the headphones. Trigger warning 2. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised, alright? Okay, so, folks, before we jump in, I've been getting hit at weird random intervals with allergies. So if out of nowhere it looks like I don't know. I'm getting ready to hawk up a lung. I apologize in advance. My editor skills in regards to really trying to do anything in regards to these type of videos is non-existent. Okay? Non-existent. Just saying. Alright, so we're going to go back to where we left off the other evening, and I'll do my best not to go off into left field again, but no promises. The JRC has already had ample time to investigate and develop alternative approaches for those who are currently subjected to electric skin shocks. Folks, it's literally been over 40 goddamn years. Now, granted, they did not start using the GED devices until the 90s. But they have been using physical, quote unquote, adversives on students for over the last 4 decades. We know this because this is the sort of thing that got them banned entirely from the state of California after the report of what they found there when they moved over to the East Coast. We know this about the shocking first 2 deaths that the JRC has on its hands in regards to what they did with the poor girl with an ulcer. They've had way more time than literally anybody else is ever been given to fix their shit. I do not have any form of empathy or sympathy for them at this point. Okay? They know that there are alternative treatment programs out there. And in spite of what they try to tell us with their full chest, they know damn well what the success rates are regards to other professionals in the field that, actually do their damn jobs instead of trying to torture the disability out of someone. They've had way more time and given way more mulligans than any other place like this that I have ever seen. This is one of the biggest understatements of all time. I'm just saying. By the time they introduced the GED device, literally everybody else had abandoned physical aversives entirely throughout the United States. I'm going to say that again. By the time they designed and implemented the GED device in the early 90s, all the other folks within this field, clinicians, doctors, neurologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, had already abandoned any form of physical aversives. So, yeah. But we do the alternative and doesn't work for stuff. Do not tell me that the stick and carrot routine is your form of positive behavior. You behavioral supports. Because you're full of shit. It's a stick and carrot. Okay? Just saying. Number 2, we already know in the year of our Lord 2006 that you all have stated, literally from your own mouths, that you believe that positive behavioral reinforcement was a theory and wouldn't know how to implement it within their schools in 2006. Yeah. Just saying. It has already been over a decade since the Neurological Devices Panel of the Medical Devices Advisory Committee of the FDA recommended a ban on the electric skin shock devices. Hello! Thank you! Thank you! As someone who has worked for the state, I am well aware that a lot of the things that they do, it happens at a crawler's pace. But even in terms of dealing with a federal or state government, this is just absurd. It should have not taken a decade to get that ban done the first time. Okay? Ridiculous. Further, we anticipate that any enforcement actions undertaken by the FDA would be accompanied by additional warnings and opportunities for the few providers using these devices to come into compliance with this ban. While we recognize a need to ensure safe transition of individuals to safe and effective alternatives, no disabled person should be subjected to this torture any longer because of the JRC's intransigence. I'm just going to put it bluntly this way, FDA. This is not talking about the removal of medication or a change in medication, where maybe in that kind of scenario you need to be weaned off of it in order to do it safely. This is literally a torture device. It is okay to stop torturing someone immediately. It really is. Really is, I swear. How the hell that's even an argument at all? Just, dear God. Where the hell is the comet or a meteor when you need one? Know what I'm saying? enforce the ban. Enforce it immediately. Do not give those JRC bastards any more graces. They have used them up. Put the foot down. You're not weaning them off of a medication. You're stopping torture and abuse. Okay? I mentioned in last night's video why even the concept of that is absolutely ridiculous. Because it is. Okay? But the behaviors might come back. No shit, Sherlock, you think? Who would ever think, after being taken off of a torture device and all of the anger, the resentment, the pain and suffering that they've been forced to bottle up, just might boil over? Surely you jest. Yeah, that's what happens when you're dealing with one of us who have been abused. The behaviors that were never properly dealt with because the triggers that caused those behaviors were entirely ignored and dismissed as insignificant were not addressed in any way, shape, or form. It's just straight to punishment. There was no, even God, they didn't even do the token ABA. Well, you're supposed to act this way and not that way. They didn't even do that much. All right. Put your foot down. Enforce the ban. Enforce it immediately as soon as it gets nailed down. And stop this nonsense as though it's a person being weaned off a medication instead of a person being taken off of a torture device. Whatever you were going to do in this situation, there is always been a risk that some of those behaviors, once the device is removed, are going to come out. My behaviors came out when I was first gotten out of that. Well, we've gone over my childhood and my stepbrother and all the horrors from that time period. And you bet your sweet ass, all of that anger and rage and hate. I was so angry. All of that culminated, and I had behaviors. The best ways to deal with that is to not, keep them on a torture device until you can wean them off. It is getting the torture device off as soon as possible and then make sure there's a goddamn safety net there to be able to catch them and help them actually finally address those triggers. And then over time, with patience, a proper team, and God forbid, some proper medication, you'll start seeing improvements. Very slow at first, and then more and more and more. Regardless of what you do, there's going to be a reaction to all those years of abuse and torture. Contrary to popular belief, we may be autistic, but we're autistic human beings. Okay? It's going to happen. To try and say for that reason You want to wean them off the device as though we're talking about changing medications or stopping a medication instead of removing a torture device off a poor kid's. You get where I'm going here, right? It should be the most logical thing in the world. I don't understand or comprehend this idea that we gotta somehow treat though most doctors do when weaning you off of one medication or another. Because these are not even remotely the same kind of animal. And what I mean by safety nets is coming out of that situation, you make sure you have a team in place. I'm talking psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, even if needed. That kind of safety net. Because now you're not just trying to learn about the triggers. Now we're going to have to learn to help them in regards to dealing with the trauma that has been inflicted upon them. And you have to understand what they went through is gonna have some consequences. Having something in place like a safety net for them to fall into, as it were, proper supports in place, proper professionals in place, and if necessary, proper medication in place is not going to, take away all those situations and instances. I still, from my childhood, have those rage issues. Not nearly as much as I did when I first came out of there, but they're still there and happen on very rare occasions these days. Don't use it as an excuse to delay getting them off that device. It's a ridiculous argument. All right? Okay, I'm going to close off that rant. We're going to go to the last paragraph tomorrow. This did turn out to be a little bit longer of an article than I anticipated when we first went through it. Alright, so folks, we don't get very many views on this channel, and a few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this evening. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone.